Yes, during the last 5 days, how many of you have spent 10 hours watching TV? Or more? 10 hours or more reading newspapers? 10 hours or more reading magazines? Or listening to the radio? 10 hours or more using the internet or your mobile? And what percent of your marketing spend goes on that media? What percent of your marketing spending goes on mobile or on internet or on all digital media? 40%? 50%? 60%? Well, I mean, if you're typical of Thailand, it's probably 3%. If you're a big spender, it might be 6%. And yet that's really the whole point. I might as well sit down. That's the whole point of my talk. That what we do and how we spend our marketing money are totally out of sync. So our time is already in digital. And I believe most of your customers' time is already in digital. And yet our money is still in traditional media. And one of the things I want to emphasize about digital is it's not new. This has been a long time coming. It all started with this thing. Do you recognize this? This is indeed Sputnik.
I'm old.
I knew it would be one of the older people in the room. This, of course, was launched by the USSR. It was the first man-made object in space, the first satellite, the first man-made object to be in space. The USA could not quite believe that the USSR had done this, and so they formed ARPA, the Advanced Research Projects Agency, and ARPA had 3 computers. Now, most of you in this room have actually got 3 or 4 computers because your smartphone is more powerful than any computer they had, and they started to network those 3 computers together, and they formed the first computer network. But the first publicly accessible computer network, for a couple, one of them was CompuServe. How long ago was that? That was actually 34 years ago. So this stuff is not new. And if you look at this ad for CompuServe, which actually comes from 1983, most of you don't even remember 1983, look what it says in the ad. Forget about multi-channel CB simulator, that's an obsolete technology that they were using to try to get people to understand the new technology. Brings distant friends together, gets friendships started, special interest groups, software hobbies, folks swap and post personal notices. What are they talking about? What do we call that now?
Facebook.
We call it Facebook, we call it a social network. So in fact, CompuServe realized that social networking was why people use networks 34 years ago. This is not new. On the first website, that's now 22 years old. And if you look at that first website, I think what strikes you about it is it looks like a page out of a newspaper or a magazine. Because when new media come, we treat them like the old media. And we're only just starting to realize that we can do more with digital than we ever could with traditional. The other point I want to make is that digital is truly global. If we go back to 1998, 70% of the world's internet users lived in the USA. If we come forward to 2010, it was only 17%. If we come forward to now, it's less than 11%. And in fact, right now, over 44% of internet users are in Asia. And every year, I have to change this slide, every year that Asian percentage goes up a couple of percent. And very soon, Asia will be the largest continent, if you want to call it a continent, on the internet. And in fact, already, according to Boston Consulting Group, by 2015, China will have double the number of internet users of the US and Japan combined. And if we look at the penetration in China, it'll still only be just over 50%. Whereas the US is essentially topped out, 83%. I don't believe they're going to get much higher than that. The other 17% are busy shooting each other at gun fairs. On the internet. So internet is becoming global, it's becoming Asian. And just to put it all in perspective, there's about 7 billion people in the world. There's probably about 6 billion mobiles, which is kind of staggering. Thailand, of course, has more mobiles than people, right? So as does Hong Kong and South Korea and Singapore. The interesting thing is this number. Smartphones and tablets. That's mobile devices capable of browsing the web. Relatively small. Only about 15% of the total stock of mobiles. But for new mobiles sold, this is 50%. And now 50% of mobiles sold are smartphones. And so what's going to happen very soon is this number is going to be up to this number. And once I have a mobile that can browse, this number, internet users will rapidly become all mobile users. And so there's going to be an explosion of internet usage. And just to put that in perspective, there's only 3.5 billion people using toothbrushes supposedly in the world. And I'm told that in India, they have more mobiles than they do toilets. Now, I have no idea how they did that much research, but mobile is going to be huge. Mobile data exchange. I mean, that's the interesting thing about a mobile. This thing is called a phone, but the last thing many of us do on it is speak to it. Mostly we don't talk to it, we use it to transmit data. And in fact, last year, over 10 exabytes of data were transmitted. An exabyte is 1 million gigabytes. And that's greater than all the data ever transmitted by mobiles since records began. And again, to put that number in perspective, it's almost the entire internet traffic of 2004 being transferred by mobile devices every month. Every month. And that number itself is going to increase by about 13 times over the next 5 years or so. So mobile is going to be huge. If you don't have a strategy for mobile marketing, you should do. This chart is showing mobile browsing as a percentage of all browsing. In the world in general, about 10% of all internet access is via mobile. In Asia, it's almost 20%, and it's grown by almost 200% over the last 3 years. And the skill testing question, for people who get a second breakfast, which countries have the highest share of mobile browsing? Any offers? Korea.
Japan.
Zimbabwe. Right? This is what we said, the internet is global. Why does Zimbabwe have the highest percentage of mobile browsing? Because for most of the inhabitants, if you want to browse, you have to do it on a mobile. There is no landline. So these countries are leapfrogging from no internet access to mobile internet access. And as this happens, the web will become even more global than it is now, if you can become more global than it is now. Okay, so it's global and it's for all. Most of the stereotypes you have about who uses the internet, who uses digital media are wrong. The Atlantic just ran a piece, sorry young man, you're not the most important demographic in technology. Men's role continues to be overstated. Women are new lead adopters. And women lead in talking on mobiles, texting, everything. And in fact, most digital devices are now owned by women. I often ask people, if I talk about a video game player, who do you imagine playing video games? And they tell me they imagine a teenager, a male teenager. And of course, the average video game player is in his 40s or her 40s, married, has 2 kids. We've got to wake up and start to realize that these things are happening not only kind of intellectually, but also we've got to reflect it in our marketing. And marketing is lagging behind. It's estimated that globally, digital marketing is about 18% of all marketing spend. In Thailand, you may know better than I, but I'm told it's something like 3, 4, 5%. Lagging well behind where the users are. And why is that important? It's important because I think marketers have to learn some new skills. Digital is different. So first of all, digital is all about screens. It's not about print, it's about screens. People are growing up never experiencing print. And it's very hard to see that they'll ever go back to that. This is giving way to this. And I just want to show you a very short video. This is a 1-year-old or 2-year-old playing with the iPad. Now trying to make the magazine work like the iPad. And the kid even tries its finger, pokes itself with its finger to make sure its finger is working. Now, it's very hard for me to believe that this kid is going to somehow go back to print. So I think one of the big things we've got to learn is how to use screens better. The other big change digital brings is streams. Traditionally, communication occurred in blasts. If I wanted to see the news, I had to be at home in front of a TV set at 8 o'clock in the morning, 9 o'clock at night, at preordained time. Whereas now, media is coming at me all the time. Information is coming at me all the time. This survey, how long can you go without checking into Facebook? And the most interesting thing is the scale. So the scale goes from a couple of hours to a long time. And a long time means less often than once a day. And 50% of people are checking their Facebook at least once a day. These things are very current, very relevant, and they're very 24/7. This lady is sleeping with a mobile under her pillow. Now, I'm sure none of you do that. You shouldn't do. You should have it at least a couple of meters away from you, because it may cause brain cancer. But in fact, 90% of young people do sleep with their mobile. And this 24/7 is a new marketing skill. And it's a new marketing skill that we're not doing very well at. Well, this is Americans who actually used a mobile in the toilet or so. Again, I'm sure nobody in Thailand would ever do anything like that. Starbucks Ireland sent out a tweet. Happy hour is on us. Show what makes you proud to be British for a chance to win. Now, the only thing is they sent this out in Ireland. And in Ireland, there's many people who are proud actually not to be British, right? And so this whole 24/7 pressure is very severe on minds. And of course, streams can very easily turn into torrents. And we all know the information overload, as people call it, where facts are reaching you so fast you cannot cope with them. A focus group participant was asked how they deal with this. And they said, if the news is important, it will find me. And in fact, people are now using other people to filter that information stream for them. So I only read things that friends refer to me. So this social network, this social aspect, becomes important in filtering information for individual consumers. And that gets to the third aspect of what's happening, which is sharing. I think humans have always shared. We've shared our food, we've shared our shelter, we like to share things. But now we can share on a dramatically increased scale. How long have I been talking now? About 10 minutes?
Yep, you're okay.
So in the last 10 minutes, YouTube have received 600 hours of video. Facebook's received 8 million pieces of content. Been 3,000 emails sent, 1 million tweets, 30,000 pictures on Flickr, and about 35,000 onto Instagram. And I'm actually preparing another talk at the moment about death in the age of digital. So I can tell you that, oh, where's it gone? It's gone. 6 people have died. Probably. Sorry. Oh, missed it. 15 Facebook users have died. Okay. So, finally, social media. So all that sharing is taking place through what we now call social media. which, remember, as CompuServe showed you, have been around really for over 30 years. Social media have had a rapid rise, if you don't count the 30 years. So Twitter reached 50 million users in 9 months. To reach 50 million users took radio 38 years. So the scale and the penetration of social media are really an incredible phenomenon. I took these stats in November. I got tired of updating them all the time. The #1 Facebook country in the world is, of course, the US. 170 million Facebook users. There are more Americans on Facebook than there are Americans with passports, right? And of course, Facebook started. Well, who's #2? Second largest country on Facebook. Who?
Indonesia.
Indonesia. Indonesia used to be the second largest for a long while. It got pushed down about 5 months ago.
Korea.
Not Korea, it's not got enough people.
China.
Is it
Remember we
Thailand?
talked about, sorry?
Is it Thailand?
It's not Thailand.
Oh, China.
Sorry?
China.
It would be China, except Facebook is banned in China. So if I'd asked social media, it would be China. But I asked Facebook, so it's not China. Remember, it's global, right? Second largest country on Facebook is Brazil. Who'd have thunk it? Well, it's a big country, got a lot of people in it. And then India. India has shot up over the last few months. Then Indonesia. For a long while, Indonesia was #2. Then Mexico. Notice in those top 5 countries on Facebook, there's only one conventionally developed nation. You with me? We all tend to think still of the internet as being a developed country phenomenon. It's not. It's a global phenomenon. And in fact, Thailand's down there at #14. I think we've now added about another 500,000 users here. And Japan is there at #17. Japan used to have its own social network, Mixi. And there used to be entire books written about how Japan would never adopt Facebook because Mixi was culturally more attuned to Japan. Well, Japan adopted Facebook. So social media, a global phenomenon. And social media are all about conversations. And marketers are very bad at conversations. Marketers really like this sort of situation, where we can't see the audience, they can't answer back, they just sit there. And in fact, as marketers, we call these people targets, right? We throw things at them. They don't do anything, they sit there, we throw things at them. And social media are a little bit disturbing for marketers, because now these people start to answer back and they start to talk. And I really think this should be the slogan for marketing in the 21st century. Conversation is the new attention. I used to want you to listen to me. Now actually I want you to talk about me. I want you to post something on social media about what I'm saying, because that's the only way I will get reach. And social media, of course, consumes about 25% of all the time people spend on the internet. And social media is the second most trusted source of information. Most trusted, my real friends and my real family. Second most trusted, social media. Advertising is about number 99. But yet many marketers are afraid of conversations because they're afraid that people might say nasty things about them. Well, I always tell clients, don't be afraid that people might say nasty things about you. Be afraid that they will say nasty things about you. You're bound to get nasty things said about you in social media, but that's how you learn. People write whatever they want. That's how you learn what they really think. This is real life reactions. This is what people really think. It's not what they just say on a questionnaire in a focus group. And the social media doesn't cause them to complain. Social media is just the vehicle whereby the complaint is expressed, so we can recognize it and address it. So conversations and engagement. Engagement, that's the key in social media. Responding to people, replying, having a conversation. An interesting conversation is engaging, just like the cogs on a clock. Marketers are very used to buying their way in. We're used to plonking money down on the table, buying a commercial, and getting it into millions of homes. The only way we get into homes on social media is by engagement, by people wanting to talk with us. And so communication is moving from an appointment, I had to be home to watch the news at 9 o'clock, to being based on engagement. If what I'm producing is interesting, people will go to YouTube and watch my content whenever they want. So engagement, not appointment. And yet, over half of all Asian corporate social media sites are inactive. They're not engaging. They're not answering questions. They're not keeping up with comments. Finally, I think social media calls for marketing to be much more adventitious. Adventitious, taking advantage of the immediate situation. And the best example of that I have is the Super Bowl. There was a power cut in the US in the Super Bowl. Everything went black. Okay? And various marketers came up almost instantly with really neat campaigns to take advantage of the blackout. This is one by Oreo, and Oreo posted on Twitter this picture. Power out, no problem, was the tweet, and the picture, you can still dunk in the dark. Right? And that got retweeted more than 14,000 times. Remember, conversation is a new attention. The image on Facebook got 20,000 likes. Every time somebody likes that image on Facebook, it will probably go onto the news feed. And this writer said, the most powerful bit of marketing during advertising the industry's most expensive day may have been free. Now I would challenge the may have been free. Social media isn't free. We don't pay for the media exposure, but we sure as hell pay for all the work that goes into monitoring what is happening and developing that content. That content didn't just appear from you. So, long time coming, truly global for all, changing our marketing, and increasingly digital is meaning social media. I just want to say one more thing, and then I'm going to pass it on. This is a supposed quote from Charles Darwin, although there's no actual record that he ever said it. That the species that survives is not the most intelligent, it's the one which is most capitalized.